ConnecticutTrailfinder.com or cttrailfinder.com afterwards. And with that, I think we're good on the housekeeping. Do you mind? Next slide.
Sure. Just admit one more person. Okay. There we go.
Okay, so I'm very pleased to introduce our speakers today. Charlie Tracy is the coordinator of the Connecticut Trail Census with Yukon Extension. He's joined by Stephen Engel, the director for Center for Community GIS, a consultant firm who has a broad range of experience doing other Trailfinder websites and other tools across the country, as well as Claire Pulfis, the project director with Center for Community GIS. So with that, next slide, and I'll hand it over to Charlie.
Thanks, Shauna. And I really appreciate you and your team helping us to put this webinar together. I'm just going to give a little overview. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your interest and for joining us this morning. How we got here, the idea of a comprehensive statewide trail website has been alive and well in the trails community for quite a while. And it particularly, supported by DEEP, Connecticut DEEP, and the Connecticut Greenways Council. And last fall at the Statewide Trail Symposium, Stephen Engel presented the Trailfinder model as the keynote for our symposium. And I think from my perspective, that really galvanized the interest. And from that, the Greenways Council and DEEP asked Yukon Extension through our ongoing Connecticut Trail Census project to develop a proposal to launch Trailfinder. So we did that, and that was supported by them, and that's basically why we are here right now. I'd say in the background, in addition to hosting the Connecticut Trail Census project, Yukon Extension also hosts the Center for Land Use Education and Research, and they are a longtime partner with the state in all kinds of spatial mapping. So they are also going to be an important partner in this project. And we actually have lots of other friends who have expressed interest and support, including Connecticut Department of Transportation. Their planning program has indicated that they will also be providing some funding support. As Shauna mentioned, the Capital Region COG through the Active Trails program, through the Active CT program is giving us really great help in this kind of startup phase with getting all you here, getting the word out about this project. And then as the project evolves, they're going to be helping us with promotion through social media and events and related kinds of design and graphics. The National Park Service is also involved with this project. They have worked with the Center for Community GIS on other projects, and they have broad experience with statewide trails websites. So we're glad that they're going to have some staff assistance from them. And another logo, maybe a new logo on the screen there, the Connecticut Outdoor Recreation Alliance is a newly formed group that is focused on the recreation industry and outdoor recreation businesses in Connecticut. And they are going to help us as this evolves, connect more with the trail services and other kinds of businesses related to trails to support the website. So the big picture is, I'm looking at this as about a 10-month project. Our goal is to launch prior to National Trails Day in 2021 with a significant amount, definitely a quorum, a significant amount of diverse trail postings from around the state. And in the background, as I mentioned, working with the CLEAR, the Center for Land Education and Research at Yukon, also working to develop a comprehensive statewide trails layer. So in my previous life with the National Park Service, where I worked for 30 years, I got the chance to see firsthand how the CCGIS, the Center for Community GIS, works with a broad range of partners. And you know, the community in their title is no mistake. They are very sensitive to working with a wide range of partners. I saw that in their project in Maine. I got to work with them on some projects on the Appalachian Trail. And you know, what I really see as essential, aside from their creativity and certainly technical skills for putting this together, this kind of project requires partnerships with a wide range of organizations, from trail organizations, land trusts, watershed groups, state agencies, regional planning agencies. So it really takes, to me, a unique skill to be able to work with all of them. And I'm really happy that Stephen and Claire are with us and are part of this project. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Charlie, for the kind introduction, and for FHI's team for getting us all here. It's exciting to be speak in Connecticut following the chance I had last fall to speak at the trails meeting. I see some familiar faces in the event list and a bunch of new ones. Claire and I are delighted to be here. Stephanie, if you could, please, we'll just lay out our plan. And really the hope is that Claire, some of you who heard this presentation, will be a little bit of overlap from last fall. We want to start to move a little bit towards clarifying next steps. Undoubtedly, there will be some questions that will arise. So we won't be getting quite roots level when I say getting down into the weeds, but we certainly want to move this along so there's greater clarity about where we're going next. So the goal is to kind of review the need and the power of the Trail Finder model. We're going to show you a couple of sample trail finders that CCGIS has helped to build in other states. Talk about usage. Claire will share some anecdotes from this where there has been an absolute silver lining, if it's okay to say so, with the coronavirus pandemic that we've been facing and connecting people to trails, and then really finish up with next steps for the trail development process. Next slide, please, Stephanie. I like to begin many of these Trail Finder presentations with this shot, and Connecticut, like so many states, is really blessed with a diversity of trails of all different types and supporting many different user groups, and being able to bring that information together into a platform that can facilitate user discovery, and as you'll learn more through this presentation, can also support trail managers and stewardship. Very early on, before we started to build out Maine Trail Finder, which is our longest running trail finder application, it just celebrated its 10th anniversary last month. I had a woman come into my office from one of the local nonprofits in Western Maine, and she came in with a sort of specific question about, do you have anything, Steve, that is more convenient than, and this is where she held up, which was probably a 3 to 4 inch stack of dog-eared Chamber of Commerce and tourism guides and map brochures. More convenient than this. The hospital is really trying to promote, physician retention and recruitment to come to rural Western Maine. This is what I have to hand folks. There's a lot of information, and anyway, that was just one of those things. So we want to move here up on paper maps by any stretch. We're not giving up on other digital applications, but moving towards this centralized database. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So all of these trail finders that we have built, and it's just as true for the Connecticut one, the need for easy, fast, and centralized access to reliable information about outdoor recreational opportunities. The screenshot you see here just shows you part of the Casco Bay region of Maine. Every one of those pins corresponds to a unique trails experience. Going to a digital architecture means that we can put hundreds, if not thousands, of pins together in a place to facilitate people searching, finding, and discovering outdoor opportunities that are appropriate for them. All right, next slide, please, Stephanie. So this project, again, which CCGIS is delighted to be a part of, we bring our own experience developing of other trail finder applications, which you can see here, and I certainly invite you to note any URLs if you would like to see them in action. Main Finder was the first one, and really showing this list, I think it's important to understand that the experience we're bringing is not just with maintaining and styling the technology. We bring broader experiences working with trail managers in the outdoor recreation space on a variety of efforts. So we understand, and again, as outdoor recreational enthusiasts and as past trail managers, in the case of Claire, who worked for the Appalachian Trails Conservancy before joining GIS, we have a breadth of knowledge that feeds into the platform as we have a broad-based information how to grow and promote and extend these trail finders to meet a variety of next slide. We'll just click through next three, which just give you a picture to some of those URLs noted here, mentioned being trail finder, and you'll see through this presentation, though we will focus mostly on trail posting development, these are robust and scalable websites. And if you look across that image right, trails, events, learn more, this image is now out of date, but we have capacity to build in more around trail site services, as Charlie mentioned, events, blogs. So there is room for growth. Slide, Stephanie. Although these trail finders are built on the same back-end platform, there's immense opportunity to customize how information is stored on the back end and to drive and deliver how that information is presented on the front end. And here's GoPaddleSC.com focuses on water trails and paddling experiences in South Carolina, and we'll be applying that same kind of creativity and unique branding to the Connecticut side. Next, please. These trail finders work best to cover large areas, and here's just one that shows a site in upstate New York. So we span everything from full state to smaller counties. I'm seeing a note in the chat. It sounds like my microphone is cutting in and out. How? Let me just check. I'm sorry?
It is cutting out from time to time. If there's a way to get it. I think it's an internet issue.
Let me, again, my apologies. I will do what I can. If it becomes a problem, Claire, I may hand it off. Move this along. Next slide, please, Stephanie. And I'll try and pick up the pace here too. So the point that as we think about Connecticut, a couple elements. Let me turn my video off.
Oh, it's really...
Better or worse, Stephanie?
We lost you there for a minute. Some folks are suggesting maybe if you turn your video feed off, it might help with the microphone.
Yep, that's now off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds a little better.
Okay. All of these sites in Connecticut will be the same. The kind of the key elements. The Connecticut Trail Finder is not simply an interactive trails map. It is a standalone website. I already mentioned the fact that it will have its own unique brand and design. Really importantly, there will be search tools and an interface that allows people to connect and find the trails that are of interest to specific users. Detailed trails pages is what we're going to talk more about today, and that's where this close connection with trail managers involving the co-creation information is so important. The website will come with user account functionality that allows individuals to be able to do such things as submit trail users and share photographs and track their own experiences. The site will be 100% mobile responsive so that it functions well on screens the size of smartphones up to obviously desktops and laptops. And it's a question we get a lot. There is not a specific app for Connecticut Trail Finder. It is a website, and that website will be location aware, but to be able to see a moving blue dot that corresponds to a user's location, it will require a level of connectivity. Next slide, please. Claire?
Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. Let me know if you can't hear me in the meeting chat. I just wanted to take the second, as Steve had mentioned, to talk about currently what the advantage of something like a Trail Finder could help managers in Connecticut. As we all know, we were living through unprecedented issues this spring and currently with the global pandemic. And we saw that people's activities, were drastically changed in the spring. And I know in Connecticut, the situation was a lot different than in northern New England. But with our trail finders in northern New England, sorry, I was just seeing that. I'm sorry about the feedback.
Maybe if you have a cell phone on, or if there's a streaming someplace else, maybe I've muted all the participants, so I'm not
Fortunately,
sure
I don't have that.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
Oh, that's a little better. Oh no, it's not. Steve, I'm going to mute you for just a moment, and maybe that will help. Yeah, I think maybe that helped. Okay.
Okay.
Claire, yeah, that's much better. I muted Steve. I think we're good. Okay.
Okay. So as I was mentioning, I know that the situation with stay-at-home orders and this spring was different in each state. But what we found in northern New England is that people were really looking for local opportunities to go outside, which was within the recommendations of the state health departments in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And we found, and you can see that this quote from a Trail Finder user, which is Vermont and New Hampshire's website, that there was people discovering places they had never discovered before because they tended to go towards the really common, more popular trails. And as they looked more deeply into our search system and our filtering of trails system, where you can look for trails nearby, you can look for trails of different distances, different use types, they were able to discover safe opportunities to recreate outside. And if you go to the next slide, Stephanie. And just to go a little bit deeper into that, we were able to use that interest in finding those safe opportunities to go outside. Again, remember, this is northern New England, where the case rate was really and continues to be pretty low. But in Maine, as an example, we almost had triple the use that we've had in the past, which has been pretty substantial, as you can see from the graphic on this page. And so what we were able to do with that use is we created a platform that state agencies and trail managers could use to get the really important information out, both about behavior and how people should behave on trails in a changing world, but also on trail closures. So people could plan ahead of time what they were going to do when they got to the trail system, which was a critical component of the outreach that trail managers were doing. That go to a second choice trail if your first choice parking lot is full. Look for trails that are less used to get outside. So we were really felt like we had built a platform that was able to adapt to this new world and really support our partners well in the really important information they're getting out to trail users. You can go to the next page, and I think it's Steve's turn again, so I'm going to mute myself.
Thanks, Claire. One of the hallmarks of this work, and we certainly touched on, and folks may have heard this before, but Connecticut Trail Finder, unlike other crowdsource-driven apps or services out there, of which many are probably familiar with, all of the content is 100% or will be 100% trail manager reviewed and approved. That's what distinguishes and will continue to distinguish this site and allow Connecticut Trail Finder to really promote itself as being the source of the best information for users. So yes, users, given that foundational element to how this work will develop, means that users can expect high quality trail information. For managers, there's an opportunity here to be able to help craft and support the message and the experience. Yes, there will be protocols for how information is organized, but there are additional opportunities and assurances that users will see those trails that are open. There will be, as you'll see in a second, ability to set trail alerts if there's specific closures that need to be alerted, not just related to COVID-19, but maybe to trail work. And it's an opportunity for increased exposure as Connecticut Trail Finder takes flight. It will rise in web searches and Google searches, and with time, that will help to bring exposure to the great work and important work that trail managers are doing in keeping these trails open for us all. And in terms of, for administrators, what this means is that we can also support those connections and help managers with, on request, with analytics to understand how many people are looking at my trail. Next slide, Stephanie. So now where this group and trail managers, where we kind of will be getting more into the trails development process, is creating detailed trail posting pages. And what you see on your screen, basically two versions of a sample trails posting page from Main Trail Finder. Connecticut Trail Finder will have its own unique colors, look, brand, and feel, but structurally we are going to leverage back to a structure that is working well. And you'll see a couple of those components, which we're going to talk more about here in a moment. What comes together for a detailed trails posting page? Yes, is absolutely the spatial data showing the line work for trails and specific points of interest. That's what you see on the Trails Map tab. But there are additional placeholders to be able to describe trails and the trails network, as well as some of the quick facts you see there at the top. There are photographs, directions that help people get right to the trailheads that leverage Google Maps, user comments, the services tab that you also see in the middle of the far right tab is another place that can be and will be built out that showcases businesses supporting trails in the future. Next page, Stephanie. Next slide, rather. And I just wanted to call this one out because, again, for trail managers and really emphasizing how Connecticut Trail Finder is endeavoring to support this community as well. Trails that do have alerts, there's a specific tab that appears and can include multiple multiple alerts that are relevant for each posting. And it's the development and ongoing work that CCGIS will be doing to help develop, manage these, where you can expect to be setting these as needed within the new Trail Finder system. Next slide, please, Stephanie. And I'm going to hand this over to Claire to finish up.
So in order to do what we have been describing, we have a process that we have kind of developed that works well for gathering the information and using the expertise without a lot of extra work or learning new systems for trail managers. And so I laid out the process here for developing the trail posting. So first we gather all the information that we need. Once I get all of the information, we would create a trail page and send it to the back for review. This is how we guarantee, as we had said, that it's 100% trail manager approved. We don't publish anything without it first being reviewed by the trail manager. We can have a back and forth. It could be great the first time. It all depends on how the information that we gather, looks as we put it into the system that we have. And then we publish the posting. But the really critical and great advantage of digital information is that it can be changed in real time as soon as we are alerted of any new developments. So we could add a trail alert. We could add a new trail that's developed within the system. We could take out a trail if it had to be closed permanently. Any extra information we can, by establishing the relationship with the trail manager, we can add those that new information to the trail page at any time. If you go to the next slide, please, Stephanie. And specifically, in order to fill out those trail pages, this is the type of information that we need. Some people will have a lot of this information on websites already, and that's great. We can just mine that information and put it into the system. The descriptions are really important. We try and get information to people in all different ways on this website. As we all know, everyone learns information in different ways. And so the descriptions can be very detailed. They can be, they should give someone the idea of whether they can complete the trail, whether they're interested in the trail. We have on every single trail page the contact information and the logo for the trail manager, because we want people to know who takes care of the trail and how to contact them. And that goes right on the front page of the trail posting. For spatial data, we can accept pretty much any type of spatial data, the most common, of course, being shape files straight from the GPS or from Google Earth. And it's really great to get those points of interest on the trail map, so it shows people what they might encounter and gets people interested in the trails. We know that there's a lot of spatial data already available in Connecticut, which is really great, because in other states, this is actually a really huge component of what we help trail managers to gather. And so that partnership and all the work that has already been done in much of Connecticut to develop that is really helpful for putting together a website like a Trail Finder. And then finally, the photos are really important for a lot of different reasons. First of all, people expect to see photos in websites now. So that's just to fulfill people's expectations. But we know that people look at photos to look to see if they can complete a trail within their ability. We like to have photos showing a typical treadway. We like to have photos showing a place that might be more challenging for people so they're not surprised. And photos can tell actually a lot more than words in a lot of ways for a lot of people. So we're really encouraging people to get really good pictures of the trails and the trail systems, both for places of interest, but also for sorting out whether the trail is the right trail for the trail user. You can go to the next slide.
Thanks, Claire. I just want to pick up on a couple of things that Claire mentioned. One, the increase that you experienced in trail use and use of the Trailfinder website in Maine. Through the trail census during the past few months, we have also seen a comparable increase in trail use through our census data, ranging from 200% increase to, I think right now we're running around 50% increase in trail use. And that makes us wish that we actually had the Trailfinder in Connecticut, yesterday, if possible. So we're eager to get going on it. Another thing that you mentioned too, through the CLEAR program at Yukon Extension, I've been talking with their program staff about they have some programs that help people who don't know how to do GPSing on trails, that they could provide training on that. So that's something I'll have more information on in the future, but I just wanted to mention that there is assistance in that area too. So like I said, the next step is to launch the website. Now, the next thing we're going to be doing over the coming months is really developing what are the key mapping requirements and what kinds of data points that we are going to be looking for from trail managers, and they'll be very similar to what Claire just mentioned. As Stephen mentioned too, we'll be also working on a kind of a branding look and a design for the website itself. But the real heart of the activity is going to be developing trail posting. And I know that summertime can be busy with other kinds of things. We're really looking at developing the trail postings through the fall and early winter. And so that's why now we're actually just focusing on reaching out to as many trail managing organizations as we can to get them lined up and to get them ready for working with us on developing trail postings. Then through winter, we will be doing web testing and really getting ready for the launch in May. So that's kind of the overview, but we're really interested in any and all questions, and I think from that I'll turn it back to Stephanie.
Okay, thank you guys. This was great. I'm checking the chat box now. If you have any questions, I will start reading them out. Okay, our first question is from Ms. Janelle Mullen. She asks, what will incentivize users to use CT Trailfinder rather than other resources such as the AllTrails app? She understands that you're promoting Trail Manager approved aspect, but what about the actual utility of the Trailfinder? Will it be compatible with smartphone use? Will an app be developed?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're not planning to develop an app, and we're not sort of getting in the way of apps, although, as Stephen mentioned, this is definitely smartphone friendly. And I think given the coverage in Connecticut, that will be really useful in most areas, not all. I think the strongest point again would be that this information is going to be really reliable. Sometimes trail apps are not as reliable if they're crowdsourced. And also I think the website will also allow more for what I think of as trip planning, to really looking at what's out there and what fits you and what kind of trail you're looking for in that particular day. Steve, do you want to add anything else to that?
I think, Charlie, you hit You hit on that. We absolutely emphasize yes, the 100% trail manager approved is a real selling point. The other is, as the site grows, the opportunity to be able to discover trails. I'm actually confident that the Connecticut Trail Finder will come to have more content in it, and certainly high quality content, than other apps out there. And then around that is the ability to layer in the additional information. We sort of touched on trail site services. Charlie and our team has talked about adding in a outdoor events calendar. And if you guys were to kind of kick the tires at maintrailfinder.com, and Claire and I keep coming back to Maine because it is the long site with the number of usage, but also modules. You can see how that content is interwoven around the core trail posting development. It's the question. We had a slide in this presentation that actually showed the difference between an all posting in Maine compared to one from Trailfinder. You really saw the difference in quality and presentation of information. So that is absolutely a top selling point.
Thanks, Steve. One other thing I'd like to add in talking about this with the staff at Keep, we really see this website also as a real door opener and a gateway for people who may not have a lot of experience with trails, and to really give them the information they need to get out there.
Thank you, guys. We have questions coming in. So the next one is from Andrew Long. How will Trailfinder support local trail manager organizations? It seems when you sign up for an account or donate on Maine Trailfinder, you support Maine Trailfinder and become a visitor or customer of them rather than a supporter of the local trail manager.
Stephen, will you take that one?
Hi, Andrew. Nice to see you. Andrew and I crossed paths with New England Trail work. What all of the Trail Finders Maine, the trailfinder.info, which covers New Hampshire, Vermont, there's absolutely no cost for Trail Manager. All of the fundraising that happens and grant writing that happens is to ensure that there is no cost to the trail. Andrew's question, gets more at, well, driving this and what does support look like. Absolutely, there is a cost, and you'll see a new donate button on Maine Trailfinder. Defray the cost of keeping the site running, answering questions, different models, and Maine's not the only way to do it. But I think, what is the incentive? Hopefully the trail manager can be really meaningful. We know, Claire and I work with a small land trust in Maine. And they've worked with us for years, and one of their questions is, or one of the things they like is they know that they can email our team at any point to set a new trail alert or update a system. At the same time, we heard from them a couple of years ago, how do we make those changes to trails? And we said, well, you can't. You have absolutely no control over that content. So what we wanted to do is assign a volunteer within their community to essentially police all trails, and then anytime there are comments that come up, and they're particularly interested in ones that speak against the quality, that trail manager, as an all trails user, is kind of posting a rebuttal, if you will, from from that land trust. So because we're trying to deeply, tightly couple these, there is that appeal and desire to be able to have control. Now, many groups, and we know Connecticut is incredible digital trails resources, but there are absolutely many smaller groups, and I'm sure it's true in some places in Connecticut, but we see it other places, we have groups who say, oh my God, this is a fantastic opportunity. You've just, even if it's just a couple $100 from having to develop our own trail map and that we can get it into your system, viewed by hundreds of thousands of people, particularly in the rural communities in northern New England, where Claire and I spend a lot of time, immensely appealing and ties into the rural development of the rural recreation economy and getting people to places. So there are absolutely, value at different levels of value at different scales.
And I just want to jump in here as well. And I think that one of the critical ways that we support trail managers is by honestly sending people to them. Most places where if you Google a trail, if you just search for it, it's actually fairly difficult to find who the trail manager is. And conversely, like I mentioned earlier, on every trail posting on the front page, we recommend contacting the trail manager. We get hundreds of contact information or contact forms from users asking us specific questions about trails, and we send them to the trail manager. We know from, I think many of you likely know this as well, is that people don't actually know the work that goes into trails and goes in, that there are actual people and diverse organizations taking care of the trails. And so like one of the ways that we support trail managers is that we're that one-stop place to find out that there actually are trail managers, and then they can learn even more from there.
I see a couple of questions in the chat that are interrelated, and Stephanie, was it okay to maybe try to bundle a couple of those? Oh, I'm going to assume yes. Dick was asking about the Connecticut River and the group being interested in the watershed, and there was another message, chat rather, about sort of integration of the other sites in New England, specifically and Maine Trail Finder, because I'm concerned that Connecticut was a small state. There's incredible strength to having a unique state-based brand. I will just sort of share on the back, and we are all looking at how to cross-promote versus social media and other down. But certainly we there's nothing yet place or discussion, concrete discussions underway to make a New England Trail Finder. There are subtle differences between the New Hampshire Vermont site and Maine, for example, and no doubt as we get into the data schema and how trails information is stored, we'll set Connecticut a little bit to the side. But on our end, we're informing opportunities to say, hey, check out what's going on in these other states is something that's easy to offer. Marilyn had a question about, do you ever trail managers will be able to do their own updates directly? This is something that we will be sorting out with Charlie and team as we iron out the workflow. There is the functionality and opportunity to facilitate and allow trail managers to go in and some editing to posting. So that will be, we'll have more of an answer for the coming weeks. Carrie's question about, is there a way to export trail data to make that available to other users to add their own apps? Yes, that geospatial data can be made available. You can see that in trailfinder.info, for example, or the Go Paddle SC. It's another site. So yes, technically it's possible. It's more the decision tied to information governance.
Thank you, Steve. Sorry, I was muted earlier. Thank you for addressing those interstate connections, because we did get a lot of questions that were similar. We do have one that just came about will there be elevation? I'm sorry, I have to mute. There's some feedback here. Will a hiker be able to track their location on the maps on the smartphone as they are walking? And I'll ask that first, and then the elevation question.
If a user has data or Wi-Fi while they're out on the trail, the system does support location services within the user's browser, again, provided the user has said, I allow my browser to communicate. And in fact, that blue dot will move along, provided that service is maintained. So yes, there is absolute value for on-trail wayfinding. We do come back to, though, like, the primary strength of the site is to be able to help individuals plan and discover. There are other apps that will form Trail Finder if you're looking at it through the lens of in-field navigation. At the same time, again, this is the question we've got in many other states. Why should I participate as a trail manager? I have map product that I sell, and that map may, those sales may be generating really important revenues for our organization or club. And so we walk that line as well. And as Claire said, in trying to strengthen that connection between users and the trails groups, those individual posting pages are a way to say, hey, please go and, get this map that we offer. Maybe it's a PDF download for a property guide that's free. Maybe it's a great custom product that is being charged for. Very quickly to the question about elevation profiles. At this time, no. A little complex because many people become trails networks. Our trails networked with many different segments and breakpoints. And that can be a different experience than users are commonly seen on apps where, like, you're starting your GPS unit and just going up and back, or you're doing a loop where that is a linear chronological experience, whereas we're saying here's this variety of trails potentially at a.
Thank you, Steve. There was also a question about anticipating trail managers to be able to do their own updates directly. I think you addressed that already, that they will be able to do their own updates.
We will be, like, with Charlie and team, we will be working on how that, to what extent and how that happens. I think it's really important for. Claire and I always find there's a bit of another balancing act here with groups' desire to do it in the abstract versus actually having the time to do it. And so what I think the point is, we want to be able to let folks know how far down that information, and they will be able to go through the project, but also knowing that you can just call, email, and expect to be able to see your needed changes in with a short turnaround time.
And I believe sorry. I'm sorry, Claire. Did you have a response?
No, that wasn't me. That was someone else, I believe.
Let me just mute other people then. There was some questions about exporting trail data via GPX or KML. Is that possible? And also looking to add Google Trails in order to get Google Maps, in order to get their trails on all trails. Will there be a way to integrate with other trail apps and import GPS mapping data? I believe you addressed the mapping already, but the Google Maps onto all trails, is there a way to integrate with other trail apps?
The tie-in Connecticut Trail Finder will be its own standalone application. There will not be a a technical integration that's possible that is magically tying them all together in the same way that, for example, we're used to seeing how PayPal is interfaced with any number of tracking, invoicing kind of platforms. That being said, Charlie mentioned the at UConn, the development of a statewide trails layer. There's incredible work that is already has happened and continues to happen within the COGS in Connecticut. There's Connecticut Forest and Park Association, the Blue Blaze Trails Network. So there won't be a direct tie-in technologically to the other platforms. One key outcome of this work as it leads to the development of Connecticut Trail Finder will be discussion and a workflow that's going to lead to the centralization and plan for keeping that GIS data updated.
Yes, and this is Charlie. I just wanted to follow up on that. We have been in touch with many of the councils of governments around the state who are actively involved in gathering trails data. And as Kate Rattan was mentioning, we definitely want to work with them because we know they have great data. The only thing we need to do is make sure that the trail managing organizations want to participate and want that data shared. So that's just a kind of a connection we need to make, but we're really excited about the level of data that on trails that is already available.
That addressed the question about capital, Connecticut Council of Government outreach. Just some comments here that Mr. Bruce Donald said he had to leave, but rest assured that you have the complete backing of the East Coast Greenway Alliance, Connecticut Greenways Council, among others. Also a note from Mr. Gary Chadwick that the Connecticut GIS Network has a data standards group that can possibly help with this. There's some information about who to contact if you want to reach out. That will be in the notes follow-up that I provide for you guys. Mr. Dick Shriver asked if we could send a press release where we could publicize this project to their readers.
Yes, we can. This is Shauna. I'll work closely with Charlie to develop the press release, and we can send that out within the next couple weeks.
And thanks, Nick, for your message too. We're very aware of the trail data standards process that's underway for Connecticut, and we intend to work with you very closely on that.
Great. Okay, and Mr. Chadwick also noted that Emily Wilson just said she's been working with Mike and Mark too. And then there's information, thank you, Mr. Shriver, of where to send the press release to Estuary Magazine. Double checking if we have addressed all other questions. I believe we have, and it is now 12:01, so we're not running late. That's great. Okay, Steve or Claire or Charlie, any other final notes before we sign off?
Thanks to everyone for participating, and I'm really glad we could address some of these questions, and we intend to address any others, anytime, so please reach out.
Is there going to be a follow-up meeting? Will there be a follow-up meeting?
A follow-up meeting, Steve or Charlie, there'll be an additional meeting about this, do you think?
Yes, I don't have a date right now, but certainly, yeah. I'm sure we'll have some kind of progress report as things get going.
Okay, thank you. This is Rob Marchetti from the Meriden Linear Trail, and this is all great news. Thank you for including me, and looking forward to this initiative.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Twelve oh three.